So I'd like to talk this week a little bit more about the power of presence in troubled times. There's this idea often that we can be present when things are going our way, when I'm having a good time, when I'm feeling calm, when life is peaceful. But when things are rough or scary or intense, then somehow presence isn't our priority. It sort of goes back down to the bottom of the list. It gets forgotten. But it's precisely in these times of crisis, these times of challenge, these times of intensity, these times of calamity, these times where there's a potential loss. There's fear for the loss of our daily routines, fear of the loss of our daily structures, fear of the loss of our lives even. It's precisely in these times where we need to build our home on deeper foundations. What does that mean? Build our home on deeper foundations. The mind is built on shifting sands. The mind is chasing, thoughts are chasing our fears, our hopes, ideas of the future, what might happen, what might not happen, what could happen, what I don't want to happen, and so on. So the mind is constantly flapping around on the surface. Yeah, flapping around like a headless chicken. And this is constantly shifting. Reality is shifting. Imagination is shifting, I should say. The imagination of the mind that believes it's seeing reality, whereas in fact it's seeing only a reflection of its own belief system, its own fears, its own hopes, its own ideas about what's going on, is constantly shifting. So there's no real ground here. There's no reality here. There's no real home we can build here, because that can easily be demolished. The mind is constantly seeking safety, security in the known by coming to a conclusion about its perceived reality. That conclusion gives a false sense of safety. This is happening. This is happening. I know what's going to happen. I know what's not going to happen. And then that follows up with a whole stream of ideas of how I'm going to cope with it, how I'm not going to cope with it, and so on and so on. So it's constantly seeking some kind of ground, some kind of safety, some kind of security in the known. And the known is always a fabrication of the imagination. So the world that we see, that's reflected back to us with shifting sands of information and misinformation, where we don't really know what the truth is, we don't really know what's happening, is a reflection of our inner minds, and this time it's happening collectively, so it's very intense, is a reflection of our inner minds, the nature of mind that constantly seeks to find a footing in the realm of the imagined known. There's no real safety in this, there's no real security in this, there's no real nourishment in this, there's no real sanctuary in this. Let me just tell you a little story. There's a famous Zen story about a farmer. And in this story, the farmer has some land, and the farmer has a son who works on the land tilling the soil with his horse. One day, the horse runs away, so the farmer and the son are left without a horse to till the soil. So the whole village knows about this, because it's a small community, so they come running up to the farmer and they're commiserating and saying, we're really sorry, this is terrible, the crops won't grow, this is really a bad situation. So the farmer bows down and just says, thank you. A little while later, the horse that ran away returns with a whole pack of wild horses. Now the farmer and his son have more horses and therefore more ability to till more land and so on. So the village comes running and celebrates and says, this is wonderful, there's great abundance here, we can work more, there'll be more crops growing and so on. A little while later, the son falls off one of the wild horses that he's been riding and breaks his leg. So once again, the whole community comes running and says, this is really unlucky, what a terrible situation, we're really sorry. And the farmer bows down again and simply says, thank you. A couple of days later, the king and his army ride through the village looking for able-bodied men to go to war. And they find the son, and the son has a broken leg, so they ignore him. They don't take him to war. And once again, the village comes running up to the farmer and his son and say, what a blessing that he broke his leg and he's been saved from going to war. So the farmer bows down and says, thank you. Well, this little story illustrates the nature of mind, constantly flapping around on the surface. This is good, this is bad, this is lucky, this is unlucky, this is a calamity, this is a blessing, and so on and so on. And it's constantly shifting, and there's no nourishment in this. There's no peace in this. And so the mind, with its tendency to jump to conclusions, to grasp onto conclusions, to try and find a landing place, which ends up as opinion, it ends up as it can end up as argument when two opinions clash, and so on. There's no transformation in this. There's no peace in this, and there's no immunity in this. As I spoke about last week, there's no real immunity in this, because we're subject to the vicissitudes not only of life, but actually the vicissitudes of our own minds. So right here, in the midst of this seeming calamity, this seeming crisis, is the opportunity to build our home on deeper foundations, to build our inner sanctuary on deeper foundations, to ask ourselves, what is deeper than thought? What is deeper than thought? It's not about this idea of presence being the absence of thoughts. It's not about controlling our environment, our inner environment, or our outer environment so that nothing happens. It's completely still, it's completely peaceful. In that way, there's no thinking going on. That's not going to work. It's about letting the thoughts flap around on the surface, letting the waves come and go, but asking ourselves, what is deeper than thought? What is closer than thought? What is more intimate than thought? So every time a thought arises, a fearful thought, a thought about the future that hasn't happened yet, the thought about how will I survive, which hasn't happened yet, the thought about whether this is happening or that's happening or and so on, or not happening, always to ask, what is deeper than thought? What is deeper than thought? Simply asking that question turns the attention inwards. It's not a refusal of seeing life, of meeting life. It's not a denial of what's going on, but it is a gentle turning in of consciousness which allows us to rest in true presence. True presence has no landing place. True presence has no conclusion. It doesn't take up a position. True presence is a kind of resting in unknownness. It's not the unknownness of the fearful mind. Yeah? It's the unknownness of openness. It's a kind of unknowing, not wrapping the mind around this moment with certainty about what's happening or what's not happening or what's going to happen or what's not going to happen. There's no certainty in it. It's meeting life in the openness of the unknown. And in that is presence. In that is openness. In that is depth. We come to a quieter place within. We come to our true home. When we build our true home, our home on deeper foundations, then nothing can really rock us. We deal with what we need to deal with in the moment as it arises. And even in that, it's not out of panic or fear or whatever else might be happening for you. Yeah, from the reactive mind. It's just dealt with. It's dealt with intelligently, whether that's taking care of the body, whether that's taking care of your shelter, whether it's taking this decision or that decision. It arises naturally from the depth of presence and openness. So it's helpful when the mind is chasing an imaginary future to find a conclusion in it and therefore to feel somehow momentarily self-righteous about it. Now I know what's happening, or now I know how it's going to turn out, and therefore I'm justified in my feelings, my reactiveness, my fear, my actions. Yeah, and this just strengthens the separate self and increases the fear, increases the reactivity, increases the panic, and also weakens our true invincibility, our true invulnerability, which is that which we truly are as the depth of presence, right here, right now. So what is closer than thought? What is deeper than thought? What is actually here, now? Now, not just now in meditation, not just now when you're listening to me, but now, always, whatever you're doing, whatever is happening, however life is unfolding now, what is closer than thought? This breath. This breath. What is the felt sense of this moment? You could be in the midst of a complete catastrophe on a worldly level, and still there is this breath, and still there is this presence, this beingness. Yeah? Still there is this, just this. You're neither unlucky nor lucky. It's neither wrong nor right. It's just this. Just this. There is great peace in this. Peace that transcends, you could say, transcends the world of form. So the intensity of these times, the intensity of potential calamity or crisis, forces us to look to that which is deeper. It'll either kill you or it'll evolve you. It'll evolve you out of the mind that wants to grasp onto an imagined reality and then believe itself to have found certainty in that, when there is no certainty because everything changes. And that's not where certainty is found. The only certainty is the constancy of that which you are, here, now, here and now. Like I said last week, this isn't some spiritual palliative. This isn't something that should be forgotten when the crisis blows over. This is it. This is the calling. This is the potential. This is the opportunity to wake up out of the dream of separation. The mind lives in the dream of separation, that there's a me here and a world out there, or a life out there that's doing something, making something happen to me, and I have to protect myself, I have to run away from it, I have to fight it. That's the world of separation. You can be more effective, more responsive, and more intelligent. There can be intelligent action when any movement happens from a place of peace, happens from a place of presence. Then you're not flapping around on the surface in the reactive mind that creates division, a divided state of consciousness, and therefore keeps you in the prison of that dream. And that dream's going to intensify, I expect, over the next few years. So it's to our own benefit to take responsibility for really asking what is deeper than thought, not as an intellectual exercise, but as a very real response to collective fear, a very real response to personal fear. What is deeper? What is actually here right now? What is closer than close? What is more intimate than this? To make that your home over and over again, over and over again. Every time the reactive mind starts to get pulled to the surface, and you find yourself tightening into the grip of fear, into the grip of reactivity, into the grip of panic, into the grip of finding a position and an opinion Stop the argument within you. Stop the fight within you. You are the end of war. Don't wait for the war to end outside of you. End it in you. That's where it begins. That's where it begins. It's powerful stuff. The war ends with you. Peace begins with you. It's not about being la-la. It's not about being all spiritual and elevated. It's very real. It's right here in the nitty-gritty of our everyday lives now. And what we're seeing in the world is a collective mass unconsciousness of reactive mind flapping about on the surface. And every day we're seeing new information, different information that is the complete opposite of the information a couple of days ago. So where is the truth? Where is the reality? Yes, investigate. Yes, do what's intelligent to take care of your body, to take care of your mind, to take care of your family, to take care of what needs to be taken care of. That should be priority, even when things are really good. Develop your true immunity which is both on a physical level and a mental level, when things are going really well. Develop your true immunity. But usually when things are going well, there's a kind of laziness that goes on, and we don't think about it. We're still on the surface of life, feeling good. Yeah? And finding a landing place in that, a safety net in that. But here is the deeper invitation of it all. Root yourself in your true immunity. And remember this always. In good times, in bad times. Just like the Zen farmer. Bow down and say thank you to everything. This that is here, thank you. This that is here, thank you. Before I finish, I just want to say that next week, next Saturday, April the 4th, Kavi and I are offering a day-long meeting online to explore this a little more deeply. It'll be a whole day, 2 sessions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, each 2 hours long, and there'll be ample opportunity to have intimate dialogue and to ask questions so that we can address any questions you have or any challenges you have, or to just go a little more deeply into this, the power of presence and the power of openness in troubled times. And I speak a lot about openness, and openness sounds like a scary thing, especially when times are challenging, or scary. But the openness I speak of is the same as this presence, and it is your true home, and in that place you are invulnerable. Nothing can touch you there. So that's my invitation. If you want to find out more, Facebook, website, next Saturday, a whole day long. Everybody welcome. Again, namaste. Thank you.